This is World of Business, your weekly cutting-edge premier business show where we delve into the trending business issues and latest developments in the business world. We also herald the unsung business entrepreneurs on this program. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of World of Business. I am Alvin Matara. On today's special edition of World of Business, we are going to be discussing a very key issue. We are going to be establishing the role of corporate governance in promoting investment in the region, hence being key in the economic transformation for the achievement of Vision 2030 goals. Now, the realization of sustainable development goals in line with the government's Vision 2030 demands a strong institutional support and adherence to standard corporate governance principles. Now, to discuss this issue, we are joined in studio by Prince Maruta, a governance expert. Prince, welcome to World of Business.
Thank you very much, Malvin. Thank you for having me.
So now, to dive straight into the issue that we're discussing, what do you think should be the top priority issues for corporate governance? Let's start with the high office in the country, which is the Office of the President and Cabinet, regarding the alignment to business with the National Development Strategy and other government policies to be taken out of.
Thank you very much, Malvin, again. Just to give you a start, corporate governance is basically how a company is run, systems that govern companies, be it SEPs or private companies, which in this case, the Office of the President serves to regulate the companies that are parastatals and state-owned. So their key mandate was, the formation was because there was a gap in corporate governance and monitoring and regulation. So since they came in, it's been top priority to ensure that there's transparency in the systems on how they are governed. And that has been seen through corruption levels dropping. And there have also been issues around accountability coming into place, and that accountability has actually improved, showing that they've taken these issues as top priorities, and these are the top priority. And also when it comes to financial reporting, Zimbabwe has had a history of lack of reporting on time and non-compliance. So when it comes to that, those are the main three priorities. And those are one of the four pillars of corporate governance as well.
Okay, so now we have talked about the Office of the President and Cabinet. Now let's move a bit lower. What aspects of corporate governance do you think now the Zimbabwe listed companies and some state-owned enterprises need to improve on to align with the National Development Strategy?
I think for starters, in Zimbabwe has now had a history of being an informal economy. And that's hindered a lot of investment, even with having some informal companies, formal companies rather, running as informal. And that leads to non-compliance. And that non-compliance is translated in the country not having the enough investments that it requires, as we do not adhere to whether or not the local corporate governance standards, the best practice standards, and also the international standards. So you'll notice that corporate governance is actually of paramount importance when it comes to aligning with the national goals of achieving an upper middle class economy by 2030. And the only way to do that is to formalize the informal sector. Okay,
so now we have seen, let's talk of the 2024 proposed national budget, which was presented by the Minister of Finance late last year. Would we say that when he was tackling informal sector, this might be the thing that he was trying to tackle?
I think that's a very perceptive question, but I do think that the goal is to formalize.
Yeah.
And that's when, because our job as corporate governance experts is to take businesses to the next level. And so many businesses have potential. So corporate governance comes in as a helping hand to say, comply to these standards and you'll get these benefits. So it's actually a good thing that the country is being pushed to a position whereby we can have globally competitive companies and not just on the streets, mishika-shika type of companies.
So now it's a good thing that you talk of standards. Do you think that corporate government standards in various business enterprises should be sector specific or uniform across all sectors?
Actually, that's a very interesting question, because there's been debate among scholars to say, what do we really push in? Should they be sector specific? Because now you notice that the world is ever changing since COVID, and certain sectors have experienced different changes. So that means that there should be recommendations and codifications that cater, say, for finance, that cater for real estate, that cater for SOEs, because these are different practices. However, all these should all be in alignment with the basic corporate governance principles. By basic corporate governance principles, transparency, accountability, efficiency, those are the key drivers that will ensure that the country develops and goes to the next level. Thereby, the pressure that's been put through board evaluations, board inductions, we've seen so many SOEs and ACPs coming in to say, we really want to comply, because we've seen certain companies benefiting from these initiatives. And also, we have companies that offer trainings as well on corporate governance, whereby we have corporate governance 101, corporate governance and business, and then in business leadership as well, because we are trying to make sure that there is no leadership vacuum, because corporate governance and business leadership are intertwined as well.
Okay, so now when all these things that you're talking about, the leadership trainings, when they work, they leave an imprint on the international space. Now let's talk about some of the global standards, the global people who are watching. We talk of the report by Niftel Capital regarding the corporate governance rankings of companies listed on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, as well as the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange. Now they say that companies that are listed in Zimbabwe on corporate governance ratings, they are lower when compared to our regional fellows. Why do you think that is? Zimbabwe's corporate governance standards are lower when they are comparing with maybe in South Africa, Zambia, or our neighboring countries?
I think the basis of that stems from the analysis that they are lower here, because as African countries, they all have their unique qualities. For example, Zimbabwe and South Africa, we can never rate them, because these are unique countries with unique challenges. Therefore, if you can check, since Zimbabwe launched its own national code on corporate governance in 2015, it has actually been progressing in terms of corporate governance and compliance. And another thing, that's why government also sets out long-term goals to say, by this time we should have reached this certain point. And to be honest, since 2015, through the introduction of the National Code on Corporate Governance and the implementation of the Public Entities Corporate Governance Act, and making sure that these policies are there, Zimbabwe has actually been progressing. Yes, there's always room for improvement, but I feel like such assumptions or such reports really don't reflect the harsh reality and the hard work that's been put in.
So we are saying that it's still work in progress.
Yes.
Although some may say that it's lower when compared to our neighbors, but we are progressing well from where we were earlier on in the later years.
Yes, and also the Zimbabwe National Code on Corporate Governance is actually one of the best codes in the region, showing that Zimbabwe really does have something to offer into the international markets.
Amazing. So now, although that we are still improving, there might be hindrances to this corporate governance. Can you talk about that? We might be better right now. Maybe we are talking that it's work in progress, but we can be better. Let's look at one of the key issues affecting corporate governance, that is the anonymous tip-offs on corruption and other issues. We have people out there who are telling such corporates that this and this is happening, there is corruption. Let's talk about that.
I think we have the whistleblower systems. They're there, they've been put in place, and so far, I'm sure if for people who follow the news, you've seen how many people have been exposed. And this is showing progress. And the people that have been exposed have been taken to book and been relieved of their duties, so to speak. And also when it comes to the issue of corruption, it's also about personal governance. So one person's behavior should not reflect the work that's being done by the other individuals in the entity.
Okay, so what do you think now needs to be done to protect whistleblowers and to motivate them to share critical information, because it is critical in the improvement of corporate governance?
Definitely so. I think it all starts with knowledge, capacitation, training, raising awareness. That's what is most important. So with more trainings and more shareholder activism, stakeholder activism among board members, so that we don't have passive board members coming in and just sitting on boards without really contributing anything and being passive. So if we push more on that side, we can easily have protection, because they would have realized their rights as stakeholders in a company, because there's so many stakeholders, from the shareholders to the board to the CEO, even to the day-to-day technical people.
Amazing. That was the first edition of this special edition of World of Business. We are talking to expert Prince Maruta on all things corporate governance. We take a short break. Stay with us. Welcome to the second segment of your premier business show, World of Business. And we are still discussing the role of corporate governance in promoting investment in the region, hence being catalytic in economic transformation for the achievement of Vision 2030 goals. Now, as we said earlier on, we are joined by expert Prince Maruta. Now, in this first segment, he helped us look at some of the key issues of priority regarding corporate governance, and we continue with that discussion. Now, let's talk about, let's continue with our discussion. Are you happy with our corporate governance practices when compared to other African countries? Now, we talked about that comparison. Are you happy with the way the corporate governance in Zimbabwe is like right now?
I think I'll probably start by saying good is the enemy of great. So in Zimbabwe, we're striving for that greatness. So in pursuit of that, we've dedicated resources to actually polishing up the inequities that exist in corporate governance. For example, our code, the first code, was released and published in 2015, and it's been almost 10 years now. And the research to make the second edition of the code started around 2019, up to date. So we are not happy. We're not as happy, but we are pushing to change things, because we believe change begins with us as Zimbabweans. And if we don't take charge of our corporate governance systems, which are the ones that really epitomize how our businesses and how the trajectory that our economy is going to take. So now with the coming in of the second edition of the Zim Code, and also the revision of the Companies and Other Businesses Act and the Public Entities Corporate Governance Act, I would say that we're really moving in the right direction.
Okay, so now we've talked about the problem, and you have also shared your solution as well. Let's now delve deeper into some of the businesses which are affected by corporate governance, with the historical context of many banks which collapsed in Zimbabwe. There has been calls by some stakeholders for the inclusion of non-executive directors representing minority shareholders, small bank depositors, and large bank depositors as well on the boards of banks, as another layer to make sure that banks practice good corporate governance. What is your take on this?
I think when it comes to finance, we as a country, we learned it the hard way. And since then, there have been efforts put to make sure that companies don't get into liquidity. And also, I think non-executive directors bring in a whole new perspective as they bring in that element of inclusivity in the company, and also inclusivity in terms of stakeholder engagement, also the analysis of the markets and what the markets demand. Therefore, this will also go towards ensuring transparency in the corporate decision-making process. It's very important in line with corporate governance. And also, so many banks have since opened and are actually doing well in terms of business since that period, because of efforts, continuous efforts to make sure that history does not repeat itself.
Okay, so now there is a current demographic imbalance in most boards for both listed companies and state-owned enterprises with very few youthful board members. What are the factors contributing to this state of affairs, and can this be done to address this age group gap?
I think it's maybe an issue of inadequate mentorship. Maybe these big corporate guys, people at the top, they are actually always busy, so there's no mentorship to pass the baton to the next generation. And that has negatively affected business in general and corporate governance, because they end up becoming a leadership vacuum. So, but there are efforts now being put in by several institutions to say, let's have mentorship, young directors forum, a program for young CEOs, so that they can be also incorporated into that bubble, and then open up markets for everyone else to come in. And also that goes back also to most of the youths being involved in the informal sector. So by inviting them to come and be trained on corporate governance, they can actually formalize their businesses and go from being smallholder companies.
So are we not doing that already? Looking at, let's say yourself, you are a very youthful person, but you are an expert in corporate governance. Is it not showing that we are already doing this, tackling this age group gap in corporate governance?
We definitely are. But like I said earlier, there's always room for improvement. So if we can have as many people, my age, young or older, being involved in the decision-making process, it would make things easier. And also, again, corporate governance and board membership is these are usually graduates of the schools of experience. So even for young people, it's also important to have that patience and the willingness to learn, because it's a two-way dialogue as well.
Perfect. Prince Maruta, thank you so much for coming through to World of Business as we were tackling this very pertinent issue on all things corporate governance. That was your second segment of your premier business show, World of Business. We take a short break. When we come back, we look at what was happening in the field with our presenter, Sela Marere. Welcome to the third and final segment of World of Business, where we give the spotlight on our Entrepreneur of the Week. Now, the World of Business team spoke to Tendai Rusere, a local entrepreneur who has followed his dreams in culinary art and has established a local restaurant that celebrates African taste. Now, let us hear more from Sela Marere as she speaks to Mr. Tendai Rusere.
Today we have visited a young man in Highlands, Harare, who has followed his dreams in culinary art and has established a restaurant with his partner that hails and celebrates the African taste. He comes from the Manika land, and that's where he got his inspiration from. He's going to tell us more about this in this conversation, and his name is none other than Mr. Tendai Rusere. Hello, Mr. Rusere, and thank you so much for joining us today. It's our pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much.
As we begin the conversation, who is Tendai Rusere, for the benefit of that person who is watching you for the first time and they are to learn from you today?
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Tendai Rusere. I'm a family man. I'm married to Lydia. I have 2 kids. I have passion in the tourism industry, particularly restaurants.
Okay, so we see around this place there's a lot of African connotations, and there's a lot of the Manika land feel and smell. What is the inspiration behind starting this restaurant, and what were the circumstances surrounding it?
Okay, my partner and I, we are originally from Manika land, so that's where the name Manika was derived.
So you said you've always had a passion in cooking from the time when you were still a little boy. So is there a specific reason why you then chose to tap into the food industry, besides the fact that you loved cooking?
Okay, I just started when my friend and I partaijga to a certain restaurant. Then we just like, why can't we have something like this? Young people are doing it. Everyone is engaging into this kind of projects. So we just say to ourselves, you know what, let's just engage into this. Yes. So takabva tazongoti, you know what, let's open something. Then patazongotanga kungotsvaga a name, but now it should be Manyika, since we are both from Manika land. Then we started. Then as also I've passion in kubika and stuff. So it's something that chakati pusha kuti I know we can do it exactly.
What would you say is something that is unique about this restaurant, and specifically the Manika land feel?
What's unique about us, Anamanyika, is we really love our food. We love to eat. We just want to attract the culture of Anamanyika. You know, here at Manyika, we do have one of our signature dish is fish. We call it pesh, which was adopted from an Angolan recipe. You know, it's one of our top dishes. Yeah.
You said part of your diet are the traditional foods. So in an era where genetically modified organisms, popularly known as GMOs, have infested the global food chain, why is it important for citizens of Zimbabwe to have more of these traditional foods in their diet?
Okay, my thinking is, you know, the African foods, it's known for its health benefits. You know, there is widespread rumors that these GMOs cause cancer in the long run, obesity and stuff. So we just decided, let's just concentrate on the aspect of having African foods as our main concentrate. Yeah. So yeah, I encourage people to consume more of the African. Our African foods is natural. Yeah, it's natural, and I think people should just concentrate or do away with GMOs.
So looking at the operating space in Zimbabwe for the business entrepreneurs like you, how has it been so far, and what's your comment when it comes to our environment and supporting local entrepreneurs?
The environment in Zimbabwe is very favorable, especially to us, the youths. Zimbabwe is a peaceful country. Zimbabwe is free, unlike other countries. You know, it's very hard to set up a restaurant in America or any elsewhere in the world. But in Zimbabwe, it's easy. Registering your restaurant, you need to register with Zimbabwe Tourism Association. You know, the processes, they are just easy. That our government is very supportive, especially to the youths. The ease of doing business is smooth, yeah.
And what are some of the achievements that you celebrate today as a business?
So we've managed to create employment. The staff complement here is 13. I have around 4 chefs, 2 main chefs, 2 assistants, 6. I have 6 waiters, the general hand, the barman. Yes. So I can safely say that I have contributed a lot in trying to make sure that the unemployment rate is.
And are you looking to expand that number in the future?
Yes, definitely. Definitely we are looking to expand. We are looking to expand because with time, as the traffic is increasing, there are chances that we are going to employ more. Yeah, exactly.
So looking at our National Development Strategy 1, which is aimed at helping us to achieve an upper middle income status by 2030, there is constant mention of value addition as one of the elements that is going to be used to measure the performance of the manufacturing sector, the tourism sector, amongst other sectors. How would you say you're helping to enhance the food value chain in Zimbabwe?
Okay, thanks for bringing up that. You know what, the National Development Strategy aims to increase the tourism contribution to the GDP from 1.1% in 2002 to about 5% by 2025. So us as restaurants, we know we fall under tourism, right? So I think we need to maintain the service delivery, making sure that the service delivery is on point. Our food is fresh, everything is on point, so that we try by all means to make sure that the tourism arrivals numbers will increase. That will bring foreign currency into the country. We are also adding value to the farmers around us. Everything that we cook is locally sourced.
So lastly, Tatiana, as you rightfully mentioned when we started this conversation, that our government is very supportive when it comes to youth empowerment. And if you look at it, our youth these days are just all about hustling and wanting quick money. And yet we've got a government that is saying that youth should come and present their business ideas. They should come and present whatever that they have on the ground. And now we have what are known as the special economic zones that are aimed at helping the youths to boost their ideas as well. What's your take when it comes to youth empowerment, and what is your advice to that young person who is watching you and is learning from your story today?
I think as youth, we need to remain focused. Let's focus on the opportunities that the government is dishing us out, right? There are many opportunities. If you can, you could find kuti my youth akawanda vari kutadza kuona ma opportunities aya because they are concentrating on zvinhu zvisingatibatsire kazhinji. But what I think is, if we can just remain focused, if we can just make sure kuti every opportunity painenge yauya, let's do it. Of late pane ma programs ekuti my youth ainzi, you guys come with your business idea, apply for loans. Kana umwe achizviona vanoona kunge zvinhu zvekutamba, vanoona kunge zvinhu zvekunyepa and stuff. But give it a try. Make sure that you try by all means to take advantage of these opportunities, rather than wasting time on complaining nezvinhu zvisina kwazvinotisvitsa. At the end of the day, in future, my youth vezera rako uchazongoona kuti vari kugadzira life yegeneration yechi3, but iwewe yako chaiyo where you are, you can't even do anything. Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mwadiwa, for the very insightful conversation that we have had with you.
Yes,
and we
yes.
definitely applaud the work that you're doing in Zimbabwe. Please keep it up.
Thank you so much.
Somebody once said to me, the only person you should be scared of if you're a young person in Zimbabwe is the person who was born yesterday. It is our responsibility as the youth of Zimbabwe to take up the roles and the responsibility to build our nation. That brings us to the end of this week's segment of our Entrepreneur of the Week. Be sure to join us again next week. It's now back to the studio.
Well, I hope that we have more to learn from that. You can start your own business. That was the third and final segment of our show. And it's bringing the spotlight that young people are indeed the future of Zimbabwe. That brings us to the end of this week's edition of World of Business. We come back next week, same time. Stay tuned.